Ever wonder why Hollywood usually celebrates older men with younger women, but clutches its pearls when the ages flip? Here's a wild truth. Some of cinema's most electric love stories reverse that tired formula, and critics can't stop raving. Which of these forbidden romances became the most controversial film of its decade, and which one features the largest age gap ever depicted on screen? Buckle up, because we're diving into 10 films that dared to break the rules and turned taboo into triumph. Number 10, The Idea of You, 2024. Anne Hathaway transforms into Celine, a divorced art gallery owner who discovers something she never expected at Coachella. She meets Hayes Campbell, a 24-year-old boy band heartthrob played by Nicholas Galitzine, and their chemistry ignites faster than a viral TikTok. What begins as a chance encounter in a backstage trailer evolves into a whirlwind romance that takes them across Europe, with paparazzi hunting every kiss. Director Michael Showalter crafted this as more than just another rom-com. He built a sharp commentary on ageism, social media toxicity, and the brutal judgment women face for daring to be happy. Critics praised Hathaway's performance as radiant, while others noted the film smartly avoids becoming another May-December cliché. Here's what separates this from fantasy fluff. Celine isn't some desperate cougar chasing youth. She's a fully realized woman rediscovering her power. Hayes isn't a shallow pretty boy. He's genuinely drawn to her intelligence and confidence. The film shows how society reacts when women choose younger men, the vicious online trolling, the whispers from friends, the concern about her teenage daughter watching mom fall for someone barely older than her classmates. But Showalter never judges his characters. Instead, he forces audiences to confront their own biases. Rotten Tomatoes gave it an impressive 81%, with critics calling it a welcome return to quality romantic comedies. The original soundtrack became a streaming sensation, featuring tracks that genuinely sound like a modern boy band could have recorded them. Amazon Prime released it globally, and it dominated conversations for weeks. What makes this film essential is how it captures modern love in the social media age, where privacy dies the moment you're photographed holding hands. Hathaway joked she'd need to star in a Holocaust movie to finally win her Oscar, but this performance reminded everyone why she's Hollywood royalty. The film asks uncomfortable questions. Why do we celebrate George Clooney dating women decades younger, but recoil when Anne Hathaway's character does the same? It's a fantasy, sure, but one grounded in very real double standards. Number 9, The Graduate, 1967. This isn't just a movie, it's the blueprint for every forbidden romance that followed. Dustin Hoffman plays Benjamin Braddock, a lost college graduate drifting through California's suburbs when Anne Bancroft's Mrs. Robinson seduces him with a legendary scene involving crossed legs and zero subtlety. Mike Nichols directed this cultural earthquake that made Simon and Garfunkel's soundtrack immortal and launched Hoffman from unknown theater actor to instant superstar. Here's the kicker. Hoffman was actually 30 during filming, only 6 years younger than Bancroft, yet their performances convinced audiences of a massive age difference. The famous poster showing Benjamin framed by Mrs. Robinson's leg used a model's leg, not Bancroft's, and that model was Linda Gray, who later starred in Dallas. Critics went absolutely wild for this film. Roger Ebert praised its aggressive intelligence and called Bancroft magnificently seductive. The Graduate earned over $104 million worldwide, becoming the third highest-grossing film of the 60s. It captured something in the American zeitgeist, the disillusionment of youth, the hypocrisy of suburban wealth, the desperate search for meaning in a plastic world. When Mrs. Robinson tells Benjamin she's 43 and he's 27, the numbers don't feel like just statistics. They represent two people trapped in different kinds of loneliness. The relationship isn't romantic, it's transactional and sad, built on Benjamin's desperation to feel something and Mrs. Robinson's need to reclaim power in a loveless marriage. Then Benjamin falls for Elaine, Mrs. Robinson's daughter, creating the most awkward love triangle in cinema history. Nichols shoots the film with innovative techniques that influenced directors for decades. Underwater camera angles during the pool scenes, Dutch tilts to show Benjamin's disorientation, long takes that make viewers as uncomfortable as the characters. The final scene, where Benjamin kidnaps Elaine from her wedding, has been parodied countless times, but never matched. What makes The Graduate timeless is its refusal to romanticize the age gap relationship. Mrs. Robinson isn't portrayed as some wise older woman teaching Benjamin about life. She's damaged, vindictive, and trapped. Benjamin isn't a young stud. He's painfully awkward and ethically tormented. Number 8. Harold and Maude, 1971. Prepare yourself for cinema's most unconventional love story. Hal Ashby directed this cult masterpiece where Harold, a death-obsessed 20-year-old played by Bud Cort, falls madly in love with Maude, a 79-year-old free spirit brought to life by Ruth Gordon. They meet at a funeral because Harold attends strangers' services as a hobby, and Maude steals cars for fun. The age gap here is 60 years, the largest on this list, yet their connection feels more genuine than most Hollywood romances. When this film premiered in 1971, critics were divided and often disgusted. Vincent Canby of the New York Times called it tasteless. Roger Ebert gave it 2 stars. Audiences stayed away. But something magical happened over the decades. College students discovered it. Midnight screenings turned it into a phenomenon, and suddenly Harold and Maude became the ultimate countercultural love story. Cat Stevens provided the perfect soundtrack with songs that capture both the melancholy and joy of living fully. Ruth Gordon was 55 during filming, not 79, but her performance radiates wisdom and mischief. She brings Maude to life as someone who survived a concentration camp. You can briefly see the tattoo on her arm, yet chose to embrace every moment with childlike wonder. Harold stages elaborate fake deaths to get his mother's attention, from hanging himself to self-immolation to harakiri. His emotionally distant mother barely reacts, treating his cries for help like minor inconveniences. Maude teaches Harold that life should be celebrated, not feared. She introduces him to art, music, and the simple pleasure of dancing in a field. Their relationship is chaste for most of the film. What draws them together is emotional and philosophical connection. The ending devastates because it's inevitable. On her 80th birthday, Maude reveals she's taken pills to end her life on her own terms. Harold rushes her to the hospital, but it's too late. The final scene shows Harold driving his hearse toward a cliff, then cutting to show him playing banjo on the clifftop, alive and finally embracing life the way Maude taught him. In 2000, the American Film Institute ranked Harold and Maude number 45 on its list of greatest comedies. Entertainment Weekly placed it 4th on their cult films list. The film asks profound questions about mortality, loneliness, and what it means to truly live. Ashby never judges Harold and Maude's relationship. He presents it as the most honest connection either character has experienced. Number 7. The Reader, 2008. Stephen Daldry directed this brutal exploration of guilt, literacy, and the scars history leaves behind. Kate Winslet delivers an Oscar-winning performance as Hannah Schmitz, a tram conductor in post-war Germany who begins an intense affair with 15-year-old Michael Berg, played by David Cross. What starts as a summer of passion where Michael reads classic literature to Hannah before their encounters become something far darker, when she mysteriously vanishes. 8 years later, Michael, now a law student played by Ralph Fiennes, sees Hannah again as a defendant in a war crimes trial for her role as an SS concentration camp guard. The film reveals Hannah's devastating secret. She's illiterate and has spent her entire life hiding this shame, even when revealing it could reduce her sentence. Winslet endured 7.5 hours of makeup daily to age Hannah from seductive younger woman to imprisoned war criminal. The Academy rewarded her with Best Actress after years of nominations without a win. Critics were divided on whether the film humanized a Nazi guard too much or told a necessary story about complicity and shame. Rotten Tomatoes sits at 63%, with the consensus noting emotionally distant Oscar bait. But viewers can't deny the power of Winslet's performance or the moral complexity Daldry explores. Michael Berg becomes a man haunted by his first love, unable to form meaningful relationships because Hannah's impact runs too deep. When he discovers she's learning to read in prison, he begins sending her audiobook recordings of himself reading the classics they once shared. This gesture carries more intimacy than their original affair. Hannah's illiteracy explains so much: why she took the guard job instead of a promotion at Siemens that required reading, why she allowed others to blame her for decisions at the camp, why she chose prison over revealing her shame. The film forces uncomfortable questions. Can we sympathize with someone who participated in the Holocaust? Does understanding context excuse inexcusable actions? Fiennes delivers a quietly devastating performance as adult Michael, a man emotionally frozen at 15. The final scene, where Michael takes his teenage daughter to Hannah's grave and finally begins telling their story, suggests healing might be possible. Based on Bernhard Schlink's novel, The Reader grossed $108 million worldwide and sparked endless debates about morality, memory, and whether some secrets are worth protecting more than freedom itself. Number 6. White Palace, 1990. Louis Mandoki's steamy drama flips the Pretty Woman script and dares to get messy. Susan Sarandon plays Nora Baker, a 40-something waitress at a burger joint called White Palace, who picks up Max Barron, a grieving 27-year-old advertising executive played by James Spader, at a bar and takes him home for a night that changes everything. What follows isn't some sanitized romance. It's raw, uncomfortable, and honest about class differences, grief, and desire. Sarandon's performance crackles with sexual confidence and vulnerability. She's not apologizing for being older, poorer, or more experienced. Spader brings his trademark intensity to a man emotionally frozen since his wife's death 2 years earlier. The chemistry between them feels dangerous, like watching two broken people find temporary shelter in each other's arms. Roger Ebert gave it 3 stars and praised the film for dealing with non-conforming relationships. though he criticized its conventional romantic ending. The original scenes between Sarandon and Spader are genuinely erotic, not Hollywood polished. Director Mandoki lets the camera linger on their desperation and need. Max hides Nora from his wealthy Jewish friends, ashamed of her working-class background and their age difference. When he finally brings her to a family dinner, disaster strikes. Nora drinks too much and causes a scene, not because she's trashy, but because she realizes Max was lying about wanting her there. The film examines appropriateness. Max is fascinated by Nora, but feels compelled to hide her from his social circle who disapprove of her class, age, and religion. Critics noted the film manages chemistry despite an implausible premise. Entertainment Weekly gave it a B-, calling it a bogus movie about class differences, but praising the leads for bringing shaggy fun to their roles. Here's what makes White Palace essential. It refuses to make Nora some magical working-class angel who teaches Max to live again. She's flawed, sometimes cruel, deeply damaged by losing her son to leukemia. Max isn't a snobby rich kid. He's genuinely trapped between two worlds. The film grossed modestly but found cult status on video. Sarandon and Spader reunite years later at special screenings, their affection for the project obvious. The final scene, with Max showing up at Nora's house and them reconciling, feels earned because we've watched them fight through real obstacles. This isn't a fantasy. It's two damaged people choosing to try despite everything working against them. Number 5. How Stella Got Her Groove Back, 1998. Kevin Rodney Sullivan directed this vibrant adaptation of Terry McMillan's bestseller, and it became a cultural phenomenon that redefined what older woman-younger man romances could look like. Angela Bassett stars as Stella Payne, a 40-year-old San Francisco stockbroker whose best friend Delilah, played by Whoopi Goldberg, drags her to Jamaica for vacation. There, Stella meets Winston Shakespeare, a gorgeous 20-year-old played by Taye Diggs in his film debut, and their beach romance turns into something far deeper. Bassett brings fierce intelligence and vulnerability to Stella, a woman who's spent so long building her career and raising her son that she forgot how to live for herself. Diggs, impossibly handsome and charming, makes Winston more than eye candy. He's genuinely interested in Stella's mind and spirit. Their chemistry practically steams off the screen. Critics gave the film mixed reviews, with Roger Ebert questioning whether physical attraction alone could sustain a relationship. Rotten Tomatoes sits at 54%. But audiences, especially black women, embraced it wholeheartedly. The film grossed over $37 million domestically, proving there was hunger for stories about older women reclaiming their sexuality and joy. What separates How Stella Got Her Groove? Back from typical romance is its frank exploration of judgment. When Winston moves to San Francisco to be with Stella, her sisters question whether he's using her for money or a green card. Her colleagues whisper. Even her young son struggles with seeing mom date someone barely older than a babysitter. The film also features Goldberg in one of her best comedic performances, delivering zingers while dealing with her own mortality. The subplot involving Delilah's cancer diagnosis adds weight but never overwhelms the central romance. Sullivan, who also directed Soul Food, brings a specifically black perspective to the story. This isn't about a white woman having an exotic fling. It's about a successful black woman who deserves pleasure and partnership without shame. The soundtrack, featuring R&B and reggae, peaked at number 8 on the Billboard 200. The phrase, "getting your groove back," entered the cultural lexicon. Behind the scenes, director Sullivan and Bassett discussed at length how to shoot the love scenes from Stella's perspective, ensuring the film catered to female desire rather than male gaze. In Only Winston's scenes, show full nudity. The camera worships Bassett's face and emotional journey. 25 years later, at a Tribeca Festival screening, Bassett revealed that casting Diggs was crucial. He had to fulfill the fantasy. And he did, launching a career that continues today. The film's legacy is complex because Macmillan's real-life relationship with the man who inspired Winston ended badly. But that doesn't diminish what the film achieved, showing a black woman over 40 as desirable, successful, and worthy of a great love story. Number 4. Good Luck to You, Leo Grande, 2022. Sophie Hyde directed this intimate two-hander that takes place almost entirely in one hotel room, yet feels more expansive than most blockbusters. Emma Thompson delivers one of her bravest performances as Nancy Stokes, a recently widowed retired schoolteacher who's never had an orgasm in her life. She hires Leo Grande, a charming young worker played by Daryl McCormick, to help her explore pleasure for the first time. This isn't Pretty Woman. It's something far more radical and honest. Katie Brand's screenplay turns what could have been tasteless into something profound. Thompson and McCormack shot the film in just 19 days, with minimal props and no cinematography tricks, just 2 actors in one space exploring vulnerability, shame, desire, and connection. To prepare for the intimate scenes, Hyde, Thompson, and McCormick sat in a circle fully clothed, then gradually undressed while discussing their bodies, scars, and insecurities. Thompson recalled standing there at 63 and feeling held by something bigger. Critics absolutely loved it. Rotten Tomatoes boasts 94% fresh rating. Sheila O'Malley wrote for Roger Ebert's site that the film cares about older women and the baggage that robs us of joy and fulfillment. Variety called it deeply sensual and surprisingly sweet. Thompson's nude scene in front of a mirror became instantly iconic, not for titillation, but for raw honesty. She stares at her 60-something body with a mix of judgment and acceptance, a moment many women recognized instantly. McCormick, previously known from Peaky Blinders, brings extraordinary depth to Leo. He could have played him as a shallow gigolo, but instead, Leo is thoughtful, kind, and genuinely skilled at reading what Nancy needs, whether that's conversation, reassurance, or physical pleasure. The film unfolds over 4 sessions between Nancy and Leo. Each encounter peels back layers, revealing Nancy's internalized shame, her regret over wasted years in a loveless marriage, her fear that she's fundamentally broken. Leo never judges. He listens, adapts, and gently challenges her assumptions. What makes Good Luck to You? Leo Grande essential is its complete lack of judgment about work. The film presents Leo's profession as legitimate labor requiring emotional intelligence and genuine care. When Nancy asks invasive questions about his personal life, Leo gently sets boundaries, teaching her that their transaction includes respect. The final scene shows Nancy swimming alone in the ocean, a baptism symbolizing rebirth. She's finally free from the shame that imprisoned her for decades. This small film, with its tiny budget and 2-person cast, achieves something remarkable. It made a movie about an older woman's journey that feels universal, specific, hilarious, and deeply moving. Thompson and McCormick's chemistry transcends age or transaction. It's two humans connecting authentically. Disney released it on Hulu, where it found the audience it deserved, sparking conversations about female pleasure, aging, and the walls we build around our own joy. Number 3. Why Tu Mama Tambien, 2001. Alfonso Cuarón's Mexican masterpiece disguises itself as a teen road trip movie before revealing something far more profound and heartbreaking. Gael Garcia Bernal and Diego Luna play Julio and Tenoch, two horny 17-year-old best friends whose girlfriends have left for Italy. At a wedding, they meet Luisa, a stunning 28-year-old Spanish woman played by Maribel Verdú, and invite her on a road trip to a beach that may or may not exist. What unfolds is a sexual awakening, a meditation on class and mortality, and one of cinema's most honest explorations of desire. Cuarón and his brother Carlos co-wrote the screenplay, then Alfonso directed with a documentary realist style that makes every frame feel spontaneous and alive. Emmanuel Lubezki's cinematography captures sun-drenched Mexico with an almost ethnographic eye. The camera occasionally wanders away from the main characters to follow a woman into a kitchen or observe workers in a field, reminding us that larger forces shape these individual lives. Critics went absolutely wild. Rotten Tomatoes boasts 90% fresh. Metacritic scored it 89, indicating universal acclaim. Roger Ebert gave it 4 stars, calling it one of the year's best films. The movie grossed $33 million worldwide, making it the second highest grossing Spanish-language film in American history at the time. But numbers don't capture why Tu Mama Tambien matters. This film is fearless in its sexuality, showing erections, masturbation, and messy encounters without Hollywood's usual prudishness. When Luisa joins the road trip, she's escaping devastating news. Her husband cheated, and she's just been diagnosed with terminal cancer, though the boys don't know this yet. As they drive through rural Mexico, the three form an increasingly intense triangle. Julio and Tenoch both sleep with Luisa, their jealousy exposing cracks in their friendship. They reveal terrible secrets. Julio slept with Tenoch's girlfriend Ana. Tenoch slept with Julio's girlfriend Ceci. Their entire friendship was built on lies and competition. In one of cinema's most memorable lines, Luisa storms off and tells them they're just typical men fighting like dogs and marking territory when what you really want is to make love to each other. That night, drunk and emotional, Julio and Tenoch share a kiss, an encounter so brief and unexpected that viewers still debate its meaning. The film's structure is brilliant. An omniscient narrator occasionally interrupts to provide context about characters we'll never see again, reminding us that these personal dramas exist within larger social and political realities. The narrator reveals Luisa's terminal diagnosis and that Julio and Tenoch never spoke again after the trip. Years later, they ran into each other at a cafe, exchanged pleasantries, and went their separate ways. Luisa died within a year. The film ends with this crushing weight of mortality and lost connection. What makes Why Tu Mama Tambien transcendent is how it treats Luisa. She's not a fantasy or a teacher. She's a dying woman taking one last adventure before facing death. Her connection with these boys is genuine, even knowing it can't last. She gives them the gift of honest experience, knowing they'll carry it forever, even if they never speak again. Quarren refused to let Hollywood techniques soften his vision. He embraced handheld cameras, natural light, and long takes. The result feels like eavesdropping on real lives. This isn't just an age-gap romance, it's an elegy for youth, innocence, and the fleeting connections that shape us before disappearing like footprints in sand. Number 2. Notes on a Scandal, 2006. Richard Eyre directed this psychological thriller disguised as a prestige drama, and it's absolutely chilling. Judi Dench plays Barbara Covet, a lonely history teacher whose narration drips with literary pretension and barely concealed obsession. She befriends Sheba Hart, a younger art teacher played by Cate Blanchett, then discovers Sheba's having an affair with Stephen Connolly, a 15-year-old student. Barbara uses this knowledge to manipulate Sheba into a twisted codependency. What could have been a simple scandal story becomes a dark exploration of loneliness, power, and the lengths desperate people will go for connection. Dench received her 6th Oscar nomination for a performance so controlled and terrifying that viewers can't look away. Barbara narrates her diary entries in a voice that sounds intellectual but reveals deep delusion. She believes she and Sheba share something profound, when really she's grooming Sheba for emotional manipulation the same way Sheba groomed her student. Blanchett plays Sheba as privileged, naive, and ultimately selfish, a woman who married an older man and had a comfortable life but craved excitement. Her affair with Stephen isn't romantic. It's about power and reclaiming youth. The film never romanticizes what Sheba does. The scenes between her and Stephen are uncomfortable and wrong. Critics praised the film's psychological depth. Rotten Tomatoes certified it 91% fresh. Philip French wrote that it's a film of exceptional technical accomplishment and enormous emotional power. The screenplay, adapted by Patrick Marber from Zoe Heller's novel, earned an Oscar nomination. What makes Notes on a Scandal fascinating is how it examines female loneliness and desperation across generations. Barbara has spent her entire life isolated by her own rigid standards and judgmental nature. She clings to Sheba because she finally has someone who needs her. Sheba, despite privilege and family, feels invisible in her own life, trapped in routines that make her question who she's become. The film's climax devastates. Barbara exposes Sheba's affair, destroying her marriage and reputation, all while believing they'll now build a life together. When Sheba discovers Barbara's manipulation, she flees in horror. The final scene shows Barbara approaching another lonely-looking woman on a bench, beginning the cycle again. Philip Glass's haunting score underscores the film's claustrophobic tension. Every scene feels like it could explode into violence or revelation. Eyre uses close-ups to trap viewers in Barbara's delusional perspective, making us complicit in her obsession. This film asks uncomfortable questions about loneliness, manipulation, and whether connection obtained through coercion can ever be real. It's not technically about an older woman, younger man romance, since the focus is Barbara and Sheba's relationship, but it explores how forbidden desire, whether between Sheba and Stephen or Barbara's emotional obsession with Sheba, can destroy everything it touches. Number 1. Something's Gotta Give, 2003. Nancy Meyers directed this sophisticated romantic comedy that finally gave older women the glossy Hollywood treatment usually reserved for men. Diane Keaton plays Erica Berry, a successful playwright in her 50s whose daughter is dating Harry Sanborn, a 63-year-old music mogul played by Jack Nicholson, who exclusively dates women under 30. When Harry has a heart attack at Erica's Hamptons Beach house, everything changes. Keaton delivered a performance so luminous she earned her 4th Oscar nomination. Watching her navigate attraction to both Harry and Julian Mercer, a handsome younger doctor played by Keanu Reeves, feels like seeing a woman given permission to be desired, complicated, and funny without apology. Nicholson brings his signature charm to Harry, a man forced to confront why he's spent decades avoiding emotional intimacy. Reeves, in one of his most underrated performances, makes Julian genuinely smitten with Erica, not fetishizing her age, but celebrating her intelligence and talent. The scene where they kiss in front of the hospital absolutely sizzles. Critics loved it. Rotten Tomatoes certified it 73% fresh. Roger Ebert gave it 3.5 stars, praising Keaton for carrying the film with grace and intelligence. The film grossed $266 million worldwide, proving audiences were starving for stories about older women in love. What makes Something's Gotta Give revolutionary is how Myers films Keaton. Every scene in her beautifully designed home, her elegant wardrobe, the way light catches her face during emotional moments. Myers treats Erica with the same visual worship usually reserved for ingenues. The film's most famous scene shows Erica crying while writing at her computer, ugly crying with snot and tears, processing her heartbreak through art. It's raw and real and devastatingly funny. The love triangle between Harry, Erica, and Julian feels genuinely complicated. Harry can't believe Erica would choose the younger man, forcing him to confront his own hypocrisy about age gaps. Julian pursues Erica with genuine enthusiasm, not pity or fetish. Erica, caught between them, must decide what she actually wants versus what society expects. The film's ending, where Harry shows up in Paris after 6 months of growth and self-examination, earned criticism for choosing the older man over Julian. Some viewers wanted Erica to pick the younger doctor who adored her without baggage. But Myers makes the choice work because Harry has finally done the emotional work, becoming worthy of Erica's love. This isn't about age, it's about two people finally ready for real intimacy. Behind the scenes, Myers created a film that looked expensive and elegant because she understood that older women deserved the visual treatment of classic Hollywood romances. Keaton's wardrobe became iconic, with fans recreating her turtlenecks and trousers for years. The Hamptons Beach House sparked a design trend toward comfortable luxury. Something's Gotta Give proved romantic comedies starring older women could make serious money while treating its heroine with respect, humor, and genuine desire. 20 years later, it remains the gold standard for how to film age gap romance with sophistication. These 10 films prove that love stories between older women and younger men can be just as compelling, complex, and cinematically rich as any traditional romance. From Harold and Maude's 60-year age gap to The Graduate's cultural revolution to modern entries like The Idea of You, these movies challenge our assumptions about desire, appropriateness, and who gets to fall in love on screen. So here's my question for you. Which of these controversial romances do you think pushed boundaries the hardest? Would you choose the younger partner or the age-appropriate one if given the choice? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I guarantee this topic will start some heated debates. And remember, Hollywood spent decades celebrating older men with younger women, So maybe it's time we stopped clutching our pearls when the genders flip.